Hello and welcome to Manifold Live, episode 6 with Marcus Abramovitch, and Doma should be showing up sooner or later. I am NC Young, we have Joshua as always, and Marcus again from a couple of episodes ago. Did you introduce yourself last time, Marcus? I think everyone here knows you anyway, but...
He's number one on the leaderboard.
Yeah.
But need no introduction.
If you don't know Marcus Abramovitch, you should.
Oh, sure. I'll happily introduce myself still.
Yeah.
My name is. I'm happy to also put my camera on. I'm in a coffee shop here. Sorry about that. My full-time job is I am a managing partner at a cryptocurrency, like a quantitative cryptocurrency trading firm. And that is my full-time job. I also coach poker because I used to be a professional poker player, and highly committed effective altruist, and do some like financial advising in the EA space, I guess, and part-time forecaster. I don't know if I want to say super forecaster. I don't know who gets to decide that.
No one calls themselves that. I think that's only something from the book.
I'm happy to talk about basically anything. If people ever want to ask a question, I can hopefully answer most things.
Most things. That's
Nice.
slightly ambitious.
No, I'm like happy to talk about basically anything.
Yeah?
Yeah. Actually, like I can at least give you some idea of what I think about that thing, and I will try to always maintain my calibration, and therefore you can trust it to various extents.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Yeah, and I'll just tell you, like I think you should not I'll tell you, like I'm very weak on this or something. So I'll try to be accurate with how much I know about the thing.
Looks like we have Doma in the lounge now, both deafened and muted. That's all right.
Well, might want to fix that. Do we want to head to the stage channel? Actually, that might be better. As
Might be.
platform, since everyone is like has to just mute themselves on the honor system in lounge.
That's worked the last couple of streams.
Sure. Okay, sure. Yeah, we can stay here.
Certainly,
Domi, you
if
want
it
to say
becomes a
something?
problem, we should move.
Mic test.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
There
Yeah,
you go.
I hear that.
Yep. Sounded all right to me.
Awesome. How's it going, guys?
It's good. It's good. How's it with you?
Good. Just watching this NFL playoff game here in the background.
Nice.
Nice. Who are you watching?
It's first Cowboys. I'm rooting for the Packers.
All right. Hold on, let me pull the market up. Yeah, there's been a lot of football trading this month, and then I was saying earlier, Iowa is tomorrow. As far as the Republican primary, anyone have hot takes on that? Just as an opening question, like pretty obviously Trump comes in first, in my opinion, and then Haley and DeSantis are scrambling for second. Does it matter which one of them gets second? Is my first question.
The fact that they're fighting over second place is good news for Trump, I think. That's my main takeaway, I suppose.
But like,
it's a very contentious market who's going to finish in second place, and I think the market just flipped on the Des Moines Register.
Did it just?
Yeah, like Seltzer's poll came out yesterday, and that had her in second.
She was the only poller to predict that Obama was going to win. Was that right? In 2008?
Yeah, I think that was one of her first claims to fame, Seltzer. And the polls historically been.
I don't. For what it's worth, I don't think like, oh, that was the person that predicted this is a very good way to judge whose opinion is worth listening to. That's a very easy, because like, well, it depends if like they say normally just like run of the mill things that like everyone else believes, and then all of a sudden like they say something that no one else believes, and then they're right about that, and like this has happened a few times. There's a very big difference between that and like them just like constantly sputtering off a bunch of unlikely events, and then the 3 times those unlikely events happen because they're just like 5% events, those come true. Like, oh, that was the person. No. Like, let's see. Like, if someone has made a lot of like has a very good track record of saying things that turn out to be true, you should listen to them more, but not like just the fact that they were the only one to predict something. Like I know the way to be the only one to predict something is just to predict a lot of really rare events and just start spouting it, and then cover up the times that all the bullshit times. So yeah,
which of course won't make you money on prediction markets.
Yeah, no, sure. Making money on prediction markets would be one thing, but like pundits never like to bet. So
yeah, exactly.
This reminds me, Doma,
I'll
you
let
want to
any pundit.
introduce yourself?
Oh yeah.
Just for those who don't know who you are.
Yeah. So I'm Domer. That's like my ID, I guess. I've been doing prediction markets as my main job since 2009, so it's been around 15 years now.
Oh damn.
Right.
Yeah, I guess that's about it.
All right. Yeah, fair enough. Here, I'm just looking at the topic suggestions here, and then, building off of what Marcus was just saying. One thing I wanted to ask was, for each of you, Marcus, Domer, is there like one particular call you're especially proud of? Like, if you had to say the one prediction that you're really happy with, that you got that right.
That's a very broad question. There's a lot of them. Not to brag, but I mean, over the years, but I mean, the most recent one was Mike Johnson. I really like that one. I kind of like pulled him out of the, he was over 100 to 1, I think, to make it.
That was insane. Like, I'd never heard his name before you were saying, oh yeah, he'll be the next speaker, and then he was.
Yeah, that was crazy. The one that was like my first claim to fame back in a long time ago was picking Sarah Palin to be McCain's VP, and we did that by like tracking flights because McCain was giving a speech where he was going to introduce his VP, and it was top secret. Nobody knew who the VP was going to be, but we knew the location, so we found like the nearest airport, and we were like looking at all the flights coming in, and to this random, I think it was Ohio, to this random Ohio airport was a flight from Alaska, and we're like, okay, it has to be Sarah Palin. So that was wild.
I guess
she was like, she was 21, I think.
That's brilliant.
If I could ask Domer a question, then, what were prediction markets like in 2009 to say 2015? Like, what were they? And like, what'd you bet on mainly?
Yeah, so they were much tinier. I mean, it's just less people, less money, less expansive. So the main ones have always been who's going to be the next president, and not only who's going to be the next president, but who's going to be the Republican nominee, who's going to be the Democratic nominee, and all of the politics, like all the primaries and stuff. So it was very feast or famine. During political season, it was very, very popular, and then non-political season, it was not as popular. And then the second thing that was super popular was the Oscars, like who was going to win Best Picture.
Oh, interesting. In that case, were you doing a lot of betting on like sports betting sites? Because I know like Ignition, for example. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Like they'll put these markets up, like even not sports markets, they'll put up politics markets and stuff too. So I guess.
Yeah, so those are like lower limits, and it's a little bit sketchy because you're sending, you're running your credit card to some random person in Costa Rica or whatever. But it was sports books as well back in the day.
Cool.
Marcus, you have a favorite? You have one you're especially proud of?
Oh, I don't know. I guess predicting that traders would there would not be at least 10,000x as many yes shares as there are traders holding no shares. Maybe something like that. No, I'm kidding. Correctly predicting that has really put me on the map. Actually, for what it's worth, I will quickly defend let's call them like game markets. I talked to Elliot Leafland about this, and basically, the skill probably of like being able to play, like be very good at these like manipulatable markets, actually translates decently well to actual forecasting. Like basically forecasting, he at least he seems to think so, and I think that like it's like decently true. But if I would say something, maybe the Trump tweeting markets, for a very long time I was buying those up basically, and there's a few of them, so you won't see like a big win. I guess I don't know, like 37K. is a big win on the Trump market, the Trump tweeting market. But there's like 4 or 5 of them that like I won, let's say at least 10 to 20K on. Sorry, like I know I think in total I might have won like 80K or so. 80 to 90K on Trump tweeting, which is like very high, which is very hard to get because like I was the one pushing the markets up and like preventing that. And yeah, I think people were not like, people sort of just like didn't think that this was like very likely. And I thought there were just too many opportunities for like this type of thing to happen. And like I guess like I got that right, but I always felt that market probability was too low for whatever time it was. Like time decay made sense for that market, but it just people did not yeah, like that was something I thought that there was a lot of opportunity for the status quo to be broken, and people don't often picture the status quo being broken. I think like actually like there's like status quo bias and like just like what you want to happen bias. And there's a lot of bias, and like often the biases can like contradict each other, right? Like you can have like positivity bias and negativity bias, and like it could depend on the scenario which one you're displaying. But yeah, I think people were not like just like imagining all the possibilities for this to happen. Because it's like it's something that could like very easily happen as opposed to like something that like has not happened but like has a lot of ways, like it doesn't have a lot of ways for it to happen would be something like yeah, I guess like LK99 being a superconductor, like being replicated. So like this is a bit of a tongue-in-cheek example maybe, but like it either like is a superconductor or it's not. It's not like something that like like as time goes on we can like find out different ways it could be a superconductor. It's like no, either like is or it isn't. And like the way it will be, it either will, and like it's like it should be pretty obvious like right now, or say for like yeah, like maybe like an uptick in daily active users. Like it'll be very hard for there to be like there's a lot of ways I can imagine it happening, but it's still like pretty unlikely for like us to just drop daily active users by like a factor of like 4. So like it go to like 25% of the current value. But like Trump tweeting, like there's just like he could just like do it any day. And he's like a pretty volatile person. He could just decide he wants to do it. Like there could be an event that he wants to like tweet about and like get his message out like really hard for like certain things. I guess that one it'd be like I know I'm not like particularly proud of like anything. So but
yeah, I don't think 99 was something you really thought was real for a little bit there, and I think you both ended up ending up at like the top of the no holders, like on Polymarket and on Manifold.
Oh yeah, actually I was actually struggling really hard to get money onto Polymarket so that I could bet it down, because I was like, oh my gosh, this is like actual money, not just the Manifold bucks. So I was like trying to find someone who had a Polymarket account that I could borrow and like pay them a percentage of, and also to like ask people for like loans to do so, and like yeah, like I asked some like rich people to do though, but I know it never materialized unfortunately, but until it became like just like the return wasn't good enough, like 15% for like 6 months it's just no longer that attractive when you're putting crypto on a on a sports like a prediction market like that.
I mean, the hype on Twitter was crazy for LK99. It was just like you logged into Twitter, you were greeted with like 20 tweets like, "We just discovered a superconductor. Oh my god, what does this mean?" And like 20 tweet threads like explaining like how life is going to change, etc. So, I mean, I think it reached.
And very little on how it could be a superconductor.
Right. Yeah. The science of it was not emphasized. It was more like how life's going to change now.
Yeah. So I actually used to be a chemistry PhD student, and then I like looked at the paper and I was like, oh, like one sec. It doesn't even go to 0. It just like they have this like the conductivity over like several orders of magnitude, and it just got low. And it's like that's just what a conductor is. And then I found out later like, oh yeah, like someone was saying, oh, like this is a copper sulfide, like this is a known thing that copper sulfide. Oh, okay, like so we have an explanation for like why it's not this, like why what we're seeing is not this, like like this is like no longer that impressive. So yeah, I know. I guess I did the other day make a real money bet on LK99, pretty haphazardly too, if I do say so myself. So if Domer wants to bet me on that, I'm happily to take the no side.
Actually, wait, no, Domer, don't you hold some yes in the new version? The not like room temperature, but there's a new market based on just the new preprint from the Meissner effect confirmed. Or am I misremembering?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not sure that they actually. So I mean that's a little bit of a tricky market because I'm not sure that they actually confirmed that they demonstrated like the full Meissner effect. But they were talking about, we've observed some things that could be on the path to superconductivity. So I'm not sure about that because replicating the paper might be easier than people think.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen this new market, but if I were to if someone were to link it to me or something, I'd happily like take a look at it like really quickly but like, what Tomer seems to be suggesting is there's like a lot of problem about like how that question will resolve as opposed to like
I'll
the
link it to
actual
you.
effect. Like,
Yeah,
okay,
it could be a question of what counts as replication. If just like one other lab agrees with these guys, does this resolve? Yes. I guess that depends on the terrorism network known as UMA, and what consensus they reach.
yeah. I mean, I'm not like totally against hunting to UMA for things, but I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that, Doma?
Yeah, so I mean, I think with the new paper, they're very comprehensive. Not like the opposite of what they were doing in the initial LK99 paper, and I think it's considered to be people from like reputable universities. I'm not, I can't verify any of this. I have no idea. I'm not an expert in the field by any stretch. And then they explain, exactly the chemical properties, and they explain exactly what they demonstrated, and it didn't seem like that high of a bar to me. I mean, it would probably be an advancement in science, but we've discovered below room temperature superconductors before it. It's not like something radical.
Okay.
Interesting.
But yeah, I mean, it could be like a 5% thing. It could be a 0% thing. It could be a 20% thing. I don't think it's anywhere above 50 or anything approaching that.
Okay, you just have yes share, or does he have yes shares? Is that what you were saying, Josh?
On Polymarket, yeah, it's at 10%. We have it at like 5% on Manifold, I think.
If this is the market on my screen, then yeah, 5% currently. It was at 4% just a second ago.
Which?
Of course it was Tumbles.
Yeah,
I
this is
a
actually
Manifold position here.
this is a much lower bar actually than superconductivity. Just what I'm reading. Yeah, I can't read the paper. I don't know. I should maybe open the paper. Like, but yeah, I'd agree that this is a much lower bar than room temperature superconductivity. Like that's massive. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest things I think the last week or two was the new like little wave of hype about LK99. Maybe it's not a room temperature superconductor, but it could be a high temperature superconductor or a less low temperature, I guess. Which I guess we'll see. I don't even know if anyone's tried to replicate this one yet. That takes a while.
Chris Billington has some thoughts in the chat.
Sure. I'm gonna check just the show market while you.
Sure.
Look at that. Chris has been betting heavily against this, I recall.
If you want to turn on your mic, Chris, feel free.
Yeah, no, yeah, you'll probably know more about this than we do.
I don't think it's a meaningfully lower bar, very close to room temperature still, and Meissner effect basically equals superconductivity. And no can do on the mic, sorry, I'm on a train.
Fair enough. Okay, alright, well, I think you two should both look at that one on Manifold, because I don't think either of you have a position there, and it's at 5% lower than the Polymarket version, so I feel like one of you would at least think of a bet to make in mana there. But moving on, potentially.
Oh, it looks like I actually do have a bet. It looks like I have 1,000 mana, which is basically nothing. So no, in fact, like the problem is I'm trying to get 1 million mana back so I can pay it off and yeah, be done with it. Anyways.
Right. Let's see, what else do we have here? Okay, I mean, well, just going back to the election, since as Doma said, that's always the biggest thing. Do you guys, is it Biden versus Trump again? This is the biggest, most over talked about question, so we shouldn't spend too much time on it probably, but is it inevitable?
It's inevitable. Like both markets for the nominee are like at 90% or something. Like that's like around reasonable to me. Like over time, you should expect this to become more and more likely, basically. basically, like, I don't know, like, there's actually just like too high of a probability for me. Like a lot of the probability mass on them not being their respective nominees is actually health problems. Yeah, I'll let Domer speak on that.
Yeah, and then also legal problems for Trump. I think Trump seems, from a public perspective, Trump seems much healthier than Biden does. Biden's a little bit slow. He looks 10 years older than Trump does.
He is, yeah. Yeah, I'll agree that there's like some potential legal problems for Trump. I think they might be a bit overstated. Yeah.
Doma, do you think the Supreme Court's gonna overturn the Colorado thing? That's the biggest question right now, I think, legally.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things they can do there. I'm not a legal expert, so I'm not sure what exactly they're going to do. They may punt on it because I think right now he's on the ballot in Colorado, so it's not like they're up against it to decide. So I'm not entirely sure what the Supreme Court is going to do. But obviously, if they rule on it, then they're probably going to rule that he should be on the ballot because it's a 6-3 majority.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that's pretty likely. I mean, okay, then just to get to the heart of it, and I doubt either of you will have a strong opinion here, but if we take it for granted that it is once again Biden versus Trump, do you have an instinct between those two who is more likely to win?
I mean, if the election were today, I would say Trump would probably win, but it's 10 months from now, so a lot of Biden's favorability is tied up in both the future economic situation in the country and also the very recent past economic situation. A lot of people are still reeling from inflation. They go to the grocery store, they see, they're spending $20, $30 more, whatever it is, and they're like, oh, this is terrible. So I think a lot of Biden's unfavorability is tied to inflation and people feeling like Trump is probably a better alternative for the economy. But, he still has 10 months to go. And it seems like the Fed might have a soft landing. And so we might have strong jobs and much lower inflation. So the economic situation could be a lot different 10 months from now. And Biden's, biggest weakness might become a strength.
Note actually that I think, yeah. So I guess like something to just say is like I actually think that like the fact that we care so much about like the state of the economy in terms of electing is very dumb. It's not like this is like the president has like some like minor amount of like impact on this, but it's not like nearly as pronounced as people seem to care about, like to think it is, based on like how like this is like basically what decides elections, like how people feel about the economy. Like if like how is inflation doing, etc. Like are we gonna have a soft, like this is like what's gonna make Biden, like no, like Biden will have like very very little to do with this. So I have always found this funny. I'd say like in general, like for the long term.
Can I just disagree with you real quick? I think
yeah, sure.
The most recent economic troubles have almost entirely been due to presidential action. Not only the COVID lockdown,
long term,
but then also sending out a bunch of cash and stuff. So I agree with your gist, but I think the most recent situation is tied a lot up with presidential decisions.
Yes, I would generally agree with that. Actually, that like presidents are the other cause of like long term. Well, yeah. At least for the recent ones on like stimulus. I would agree on that. In the sense that like they're responsible for basically dumb printing of money. But like in terms of economic recovery, do you think that there's like a lot of things that Biden would do, say, in the next like few weeks that like really decide if like the economy turns around or not? Or yeah.
Well, I think Biden can do things. I mean, here's the first thing that they have to do is they have to get past this shutdown threat. And he has to try to, send money to Ukraine or maybe fix the border. So there's a lot of decisions coming up with Congress that he is going to have to make. And a lot of it could be like throwing his base under the bus a little bit in favor of, presidential aspirations.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. I see Josh put it like the vibe session.
I was going to say that's kind of one of the most impactful things I think on the election, as Doma said, is it's not even like, will we be in a recession or what is the actual economy? It's how do people feel about the economy? And yeah, I linked a market which is like just based on the consumer sentiment, basically, how people think the economy is doing, regardless of the actual inflation rate, etc. That ends up getting blamed on the president one way or another.
So this is not as like crazy as it might otherwise seem, but because like how do I say this? It's not as crazy because like inflation is like a last 12-month basically marker, but like you don't care about like how prices, like if prices go up 100% tomorrow and then they stay this way for 366 days, you'll be like, oh, like this 0% inflation, like I feel like my money's worth so much. And no, like the last, like it's like a rolling number, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's not like the so that is a bit odd, right? Like if inflation goes back down to 2% a year, we still have had this like over time, like the average, let's say the geometric mean of the last like 15 to 20 years has been like too high, right?
Mhm.
Also, like I'm skeptical. Like I don't think 2% is also a good number. I think you should like I don't know, closer to 0% seems better to me. Like you
No,
can
these are
print
fair
money
points.
just to keep. Yeah, because like price of goods should go down over time. I don't know where this 2% number comes. It doesn't come from anywhere actually. It just like, oh, like this seems a bit like, yeah, it's a like small amount, like 1% a bit too low, 3% a bit too high, 2%, let's go. It allows us to print money to give to ourselves.
Wait, hold on. I'm going to do just like a 2-minute tangent if I can from both of you.
Sure.
Are they cutting rates on the next meeting? That's one of the markets that's at like 50% right now. Some people at the Fed say it's too soon. Some people at the Fed say, oh, this should be happening.
So
Either of you
yeah,
have
so-
immediate thought?
Well, the very next meeting is January. They're not going to cut there, but March, to your point, is that 50-50, highly contentious. The markets are like begging them to cut rates because traders are like cut rates, cut rates, cut rates, cut rates. But I'm bigly on no. I do not think they're going to cut rates. Yeah, I think
Hot
the
take,
jobs are
hot
still
take.
strong, and inflation is still running a little bit too hot.
Marcus?
okay, I want to I'll quickly push back on the way that you framed the question, which is like, are they going to cut rates or not? And I'm like, well, like there's a probability they're going to cut rates, right? So like basically like you're kind of wanting me to put like a bet on like a like if I were to bet 50-50, actually I would agree with Domer that it'd be a no, they probably will not. But like not too far off of 50%, like maybe something like 40 to 45%. Which is basically me saying like, oh, I'm not like a strong yeah, like don't I would like encourage you not to frame questions like will this happen or will it not, like, oh, like what odds would you put on this, like compare, and especially
Right.
like compared to what markets are trading at is I think a more interesting question and a more like relevant question. This is like
No, I
the number
super
one
agree.
pundit. Don't ask the question like a pundit would. Ask a question like a forecaster and prediction market specialist would.
Yeah, I guess the way to frame the question is that the manifold market for this was at 60% before I asked you this,
Oh,
and then you both said that it
where's
should
the
be
question?
lower, and I just bought it to 50. I put
Where's
it in
this?
chat.
Oh,
You're
damn
all-
it! Like, yeah, this is the problem. I'm like holding the mic up to my face and
you can't trade at the same time. Here, I'll just
yeah.
link it to both of you. It's
You're
at
pretty-
50 now. If 50 is still too high, you're feel free to
Oh, it's
push
at
it
40.
down. Oh, 40 might be too low. I don't know.
Yeah,
Unit
I
bid it
guess
down
like
to
I would
34.
I'm gonna market make it say 35 at 50.
Okay.
There's probably a
Okay.
few
I
markets.
think this is the kind of thing where you can really get like some societal value out of prediction markets, where like obviously all the financial markets are trading based on this question, but we can have actual direct event markets about exactly at what rate they will cut it at what meeting, which normal markets don't allow you to do. And theoretically, this should make the economy more efficient.
I agree with you 100%, and it also impacts like home buying decisions. If you think rates are possibly going to drop, maybe wait a few months to buy a house, etc., mortgage rates, all that stuff.
Yeah, I'd agree. Actually, I guess like as the financial markets specialist, there actually is often like direct trading. Like so, for example, like the price of an option in a financial market will be highly sensitive to volatility, but there actually is like just like you can just like trade the volatility of a index fund or something. Like this just does exist as well, and like the problem is if you make such direct markets, often there's not enough like financial liquidity on it, like you get something like really interesting. But I agree with you, like something like this is actually like not a horrible thing to have a financial market on. Like P, basically just like P, and basically what you could derive of it is like basically just like P, like rate cut or something like this. So Yeah.
Just seeing where it's landed right now. It's still at 40, but yeah, Polymark's at 54, I think, which yeah,
I
that's
guess.
right in the middle of the interesting zone.
All right. Sure. Yeah, I would bet. The problem is like, say like your real probability is like 45%. You're gonna lock up money for like a few months to make like
Mhm.
like a 9% return.
Mhm.
It's not like amazing. Yeah.
That's fair. Part of this is just for the bragging rights.
Yeah. Like I think Domer would probably agree with me. Like if he was like super focused on making money, he would probably be doing something else.
Yeah, maybe. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Okay. That's fair. Like you've obviously specialized into it and gotten good. So, all right.
Yeah,
Um,
to just end the conversation, I think it's maybe like 25 to 30% on the Fed hiking, and I have a pretty massive position on no. I can't
Alright, yeah.
just bet infinite money on it, so I'm not like still. That's why the odds are still at 55%.
I mean, you're getting good a price. Like, why push it down if people are willing to keep buying? Yes, 54.
Okay.
Exactly.
Actually, like if you want something like if you want what can someone look me the poly market?
Poly market, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Fed rate cut. Here, I'll just put it in the lounge for you, like the actual lounge, not the one that's hard to find.
Sure.
You see that?
Yeah.
January is at 2%, March 20th at 54%, May 1st at 83%.
See if I can bring this up.
Okay, I got it. I'm not against trying to get myself a bet on that actually. So, all right, maybe I'll do that after.
Nice. We like to encourage people to put their money where their mouth is.
Yeah, I think I've proven myself happy to put my money where the money.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool.
Let's see. Hold on, I'm looking at other topic suggestions now. We got the rematch. Wait, did either of you give me an answer of
Yeah.
who's going to win?
Yeah, I was waiting for Marcus's answer on that one.
On what? Sorry.
Biden and Trump. If we know they're the nominees, you assume that probably things will change in the polls between now and November. But if you had to put money down, if you had to guess.
Yeah, I'm like reasonably close to 50-50 on this. I think a lot of the pundits will probably discount Trump because a lot of because they probably talk to their circles that that are like, oh no, Trump's awful, etc. I agree with him that like it'll probably have a lot to do with the economy and like how it's doing and stuff, and or how people feel about the economy and stuff. I don't know, like probably like I would if the election were held today, like probably something like Trump's slight favorite. I think probably
Oh yeah,
10 months
it was
from
today
now.
for sure.
Yeah, I think 10 months from now, I would say Biden. Like, I think things will happen in the economy that will make Biden a slight favorite, but like, not like, there's nothing that I'm like I don't have a super. Yeah, like if the elect. Okay, I think in 10 months, I think because that's when the election is. Yeah, Biden's slight favorite maybe over Trump, but by slim odds.
Yeah,
I
wait,
wouldn't
as
be
you say,
surprised
put a number. What do you think? 51, 52, 55?
Oh, yeah, 51, 52 is basically saying 50. No, I'll have like 55. Like 10 months from now. But like, if it's Biden versus Trump, I think Biden 55. I think if the election were held today, something like Trump 55, 60.
Dilmer?
The election is not happening today.
What was the question? The odds today and the odds.
Yeah, if you had to put a number on it, yeah, today and in November.
I also haven't looked at the markets, which I should probably do before saying a number.
Today, if the election was tomorrow, I would say Trump would be a 70-30 favorite. It's in
I said 60-40,
November,
yeah.
50-50. Because the other
yeah.
thing that's acting against Biden right now in a very big way is that very progressive people are pissed off at the Israeli situation, and he's not calling for a ceasefire. And one of my searches on Twitter is like Biden ceasefire, and you just get streamed with all these people like, please call for a ceasefire, call for a ceasefire. So these people are furious, and it especially impacts them in Michigan, which has a larger share of the Muslim population. And so I mean, I think Trump would easily win Michigan right now, and if Trump is winning Michigan, then it's a big problem for Biden to win the election.
No, I think that's a good analysis. I think that basically a lot of this really comes down to how many people come home to Biden right now that are on the left but really don't like him. Like, so much of the polling disadvantage, I think, is like people will say RFK Jr., who is not going to win. So at some point they're going to have to stop saying RFK Jr. and decide whether they're staying home or voting for Biden. And I think that ends up swinging a fair amount of it, to overly generalize. Not that RFK Jr. supporters are the same as the people pissed about Israel, but I guess the people pissed about Israel are mainly just saying they don't like either of them by either picking RFK or just someone else.
I think people often say that they're not going to vote for the president that aligns most with their political view, and then they always do. Not always, but
the thing is, all the markets, when you look at like on Manifold at least, the generic question of which party will win is so much higher for Democrats than it is for Biden specifically. So
that's
the
interesting
thing is,
because Oh, I agree. I'd agree that like
56% that a Democrat wins versus 50% that Biden wins, when Biden is very likely to be the nominee. At some point, those have to converge.
Yeah, I guess like if you were to say like generic Democrat, like say I don't know, just like pick a random senator, I would bid higher on them winning than Biden winning. Like Biden is just like it's like I don't know, the political system is like quite an embarrassment, and the fact that it's like everyone kind of knows who the candidates are going to be like this on the prediction markets is like kind of sad for the state of the country, because I think that both parties could probably choose someone better and they'd like almost lock in a victory. So yeah.
Wait, okay, hold on. Fun personal question, I guess, is if you're just picking the nominee for your own personal political preference for whichever party you'd like to. Do you have either of you have a wish list or your ideal president right now that you'd put up as the nominee?
For the Republicans, I would pick Mitt Romney. For the Democrats, I don't know. That's a tough question.
Really, you don't mean to win, right? You just mean you'd rather Romney be president, or do you think he could win?
Do I think Mitt Romney could beat Biden? Yeah, I think he would crush him. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Versus, you know what? That's fair.
Yeah.
I agree that Biden would crush. Before I forget to do this, just to manipulate the market, rational Lessie, or however that's pronounced.
God damn it.
Okay. So was the question who I would like to win, or
the question was if you were picking the nominee, so you don't guarantee they win. It's you pick the nominee, because everyone's unhappy with their nominee right now. The left doesn't like Biden. Many of the right don't like Trump. So
like pick someone,
swap out one of the nominees for someone of your
put someone in who I think is like a 95% chance of victory.
Well, balance it. You got to balance who you want to win and who you think would win. That's all of politics. Like Newsom would be the generic answer for a generic Democrat, right?
I've got my Democrat answer. If I can say real quick.
What's the guy that left the Republican Party? What's the guy's name that left the Republican Party to become part of the Libertarian Party, but was a very smart,
Amash,
decently built. Justin Amash. I think Justin Amash would crush.
Mm-hmm.
I would be very happy with it.
For the Democrats, then you said you had an answer. If you could swap Biden out.
Yeah, I would pick Jared Polis, the governor of Colorado.
Oh, that's a great answer. Polis is amazing. Like that man, I think he could win a national election. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think he would beat Trump like 65-35 in the popular vote.
He's very likable.
Actually, who am I going to say for the Democrats?
Yeah, pick a Democrat. Yeah, don't do a Democrat and a Republican. So,
I think he named someone that I think is quite good, but not to repeat him. Actually, like this will be very funny. Dean Phillips.
Dean Phillips.
Yeah, he's running, and I think. What's that?
I said cringe.
Yeah, I know very little about him, but he just seems like a generic, like 50-year-old Democrat who like probably hasn't said very much, and I think that would just like win, type of thing. Like, he seems like rather centrist. I think this is like basically where the country is, type of thing. And I guess what I mean by that is like I think the country is like by definition rather centrist, as in like the political compass will be like basically like it's going to like there's a lot of forces that make it sort of go around the center. Um,
Mm.
If you just like because like issues sort themselves by left and right, and so like the person will just like if you like balance them over like a spectrum, they will just get there. I don't know. Maybe if I can come up with something more interesting. Um, uh,
No, I think this is great. Top Manifold trader endorses Dean Phillips for Democratic
I don't
nomination.
endorse. I don't
You
endorse
said
him.
he would
If
win.
I,
You said he would be better for the country. That sounds like an endorsement to me, Marcus.
well, the endorsement would be like if I were to like be an advisor to the Democratic Party, I would say like yeah, you should probably just like somehow kill Biden or like would get him out of the race and just like put Dean Phillips in. I think you'll just win. Like I like that'd be like my McKinsey consultant like advice to the Democrats.
Gotcha.
But that'll never happen. They'll never. Yeah, like in fact, I expect that if like Biden drops dead, they'll like find someone that is not Dean Phillips to get him in. Like they politicians suck at winning. That's like yeah, I'll say that confidently.
Okay, I like these answers. I'm thinking about them, but okay, I should pick another question here probably. Right now, NC, you have thoughts? You have any suggestions for the market?
Not really. My thought was just that you can't just get rid of Biden and then put whoever you like in, because that's a sign of the party just being in disarray. But which was why Biden's up the top, despite no one liking him.
Fair enough.
But
yeah, interrupt me if
Marcus
I go on too much. Wait, no, I interrupted you, telling you to interrupt me. But as a political junkie who is currently #1 on the politics leaderboard, I will talk about this forever if you let me.
I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to just be the get all the relevant markets up on here.
Let's see here. Oh, okay, so wait, top of the market right now is one of my own. Can you pull up and see the conditional market?
Oh, yes, I can. Give me a sec.
I thought this would be maybe the one chance to ask. You two are like the greatest living forecasters that I know as far as prediction markets go. We have been trying so hard to find a way to make a conditional market that works, and we can't. Here, hold on. I'm gonna link this to both of you. I'm not sure if you are familiar with the problem, but I would assume you can see the issue very quickly. Ideally, you would think that a prediction market would serve the purpose of, in an election, you could ask, will a good thing happen if A wins the presidency or if B wins the presidency? And you could have a market on whether or not one president will make a good thing happen, or whether they're more likely to than their opposition. This turns out to be impossible. Like, people keep trying to make markets on, like, what will be the S&P 500 if Biden wins versus if Trump wins? What will be the state of the Ukraine war? And we can't find anything correlated. It's always, like, profitable to just bet towards the base rates, because the presidency doesn't seem to impact anything as far as the market believes. What do you guys think? Is there anything that would actually change predictably? Something you'd bet on?
Yes, foreign policy, mainly. And
Okay,
this is yep. So the reason for foreign policy being the subject matter is because this is something that's like rather much in the realm of the presidency, or like the executive branch. Whereas like whether or not the economy does well over in the year 2027, like I know like there's just too many things that impact that. Whereas like the foreign policy is something that's almost directly in control of the executive branch. And therefore, you could probably do something like deaths in the Russia-Ukraine war in the year 2025, like or something like very close to the election that we know is going to be a foreign policy issue, or like odds of yeah, you'd have to start doing markets on conditional probabilities of the president being elected, and then the say number of deaths in like a certain war, or whether or not like the amount of like political prisoners or something, and like basically you're trying to like operationalize markets on foreign policy outcomes, and I think you could probably do something like this. If you need me to come up with a specific market, like give me like 30 minutes to research, and I could probably do it.
I'd be if you can impress me. This market that I linked will resolve yes, because the condition of this
Okay.
market is someone show me one market that does this well, which no one has so far. But Domer, thoughts? Foreign policy, does that actually change with the presidency?
I think I can think of two things. So you're asking conditional on who wins 2024, XYZ either happens or it doesn't happen.
Yes.
Okay. The two that come to mind are the number of immigrants entering the country through Mexico. That would be remarkably different. The second one that comes to mind is I'm guessing
Agree.
I'm guessing Trump would sit down and meet with Putin, whereas Biden right now would never do that ever.
That's
Agree.
a great one, actually. Wait, yeah, will the next president meet
Meet with
Vladimir
Putin,
Putin in
yeah.
person? Yeah, I could see that being different.
Given it's Trump, given it's Biden, sure, yeah.
Given it Trump, given it's Biden. So I think the number of immigrants into the country, and as you were saying, like the number of deaths in a foreign conflict. My problem with those kinds of questions is that I agree there would be influence from the executive, but the base rate is so unknowable. Like I think if you made just a simple market, regardless of the presidency, of
But the
how
base
many immigrants
rate
will enter, you like that
base
market
rate
would
would be
be
the
really
mean.
uncertain, right?
The base rate would be the mean though.
Um,
Like let's say
do we know the mean?
it was let's say I said like over 100 like let's say over 100,000 deaths in in say Israel Palestine in the year 2024 for example, and then like you can just like have three markets. One is conditional on Biden winning, one is conditional on Trump winning, and the other one's just like the odds like the odds of it being that case. And the say the market for like whether there'll be 100,000 deaths or more is like say 50%. And then the odds of Biden and Trump winning are both 50% as well. Then like, but like what for with Trump it's like 75%, with Biden it's 25%. Like basically like there's arbitrages that exist if the conditional probabilities on them if the probabilities are like very different.
Mhm.
I don't know if I explained myself really well.
No.
But,
I think I think I'm understanding what you're saying. I
Like-
still
like-
just
like
think
basically
what
three
will
markets,
happen is
right?
that. No, wait, you go.
Yeah, so like there'd be three markets. For example, one of them would be just the base rate one, which is like what are the odds that there's over 100,000 deaths? Let's say it's at 50%, and then conditional on Biden winning, how many deaths will there'll be in Israel Palestine? That'll be 60%, let's say, and then conditional on Trump winning will be 40%, let's say, and that would be the case if they were both 50-50 odds of becoming the president, for example.
No. I understand the format. I'm just saying I don't think you're going to be able to. I think most people will bet towards the base rates even for that, because like the U.S. president doesn't have as much direct influence over either Ukraine or Israel. Number of immigrants is good.
Well,
though.
they should go towards the base rate though,
Mhm.
right? But it doesn't mean that
Right.
they're going to both be the base rate.
They'll be like slightly off. I think it's really hard to get people to bet on these because A, they don't have a strong opinion of the base rate, and B, they have to do math in order to
Okay,
figure
yeah,
out the
but,
conditional probabilities.
Sure. I don't know. Like you could probably also say like control of like some region in Ukraine that's not Crimea, for example. Something like this, conditional on each president. I think there's a lot of foreign policy related ones you could do.
I think you could have done Afghanistan withdrawal in the last election. That was something that you could have like seen coming as maybe something that would have been different of Biden. and
No.
Trump. You think they both would have done the
actually-
same?
I don't know, but I don't know. I don't think it was like very obvious that Biden was going to do that before. Like he didn't say he was going to do it or anything, right?
Hmm.
All right,
I don't know. Like
I've got one. It's a very easy one. Slam dunk.
Okay, Domer, go.
Over under 0.5 January 6th people being pardoned.
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah.
what'd you say?
It's definitely pardons for the January 6th.
Oh,
You can find some slam dunks. Like you can find like, will
Yeah.
any members of Trump's family be appointed to the cabinet? The tricky part is finding something that people that like Biden will bet on Biden is more likely to make this happen, and people that like Trump will bet on Trump is more likely to make this happen. I think that's like the unobtainium that I'm looking for, is something that both sides agree is good. The closest I've seen is someone made a market on whether China will beat the US to the moon, depending on whether Trump or Biden is president. that one's fun because I think both the left and right would agree. Yeah, we should get to the moon first. We want to win the moon race, but I think
Why?
the market
Been
might
to the moon.
actually bet on who's going to do that better, which president would prioritize it. Because that's it's a binary.
I like that one a lot. I think Trump would go balls to the wall trying to get that done in his presidency.
Yeah. No, I think I got to hand
why?
that to him. He made the Space Force. The dude likes the space program.
He'd certainly talk about it, but would he actually get anything done?
Yes, the idea that Trump is incompetent just doesn't seem borne out by the facts.
Oh, I think he's extremely incompetent, but that doesn't mean that he can't get it done.
Wait, one sec. Isn't that the definition of competency?
Isn't what the definition of competence? I mean, the country's
Getting
going
things done or not.
to go forward regardless of whether if he just slept for 4 years. You know, a lot of good things will happen. That doesn't mean that he had any role in propelling it.
Oh, sure. I'll agree with that. Like the country will move forward. In fact, like I think often the country does well in spite of the president than because of it. Like that like people say, oh, is the country going to? Yeah. In spite of the president, the country will probably do better. It's like probably what I would generally say. But like basically what you sort of said was like Trump is more likely to make man go on the moon, and you said like, oh, also he's incompetent. So like if that's the case, and like
okay, but but this is a tiny little. This is not a huge societal good to get back to something that we've done 50
I
years
agree.
ago.
Like we shouldn't get to the moon. Like who cares? We've been there.
I mean,
I think Domer's right though. He would yell at them more.
Yeah, and he would throw money at it, and he would be like, "We're doing this in my presidency. Like I'm giving this speech. Like it's happening."
No, I would call that a sign of competency. Like he did the thing that got something done.
I think it was extremely evident that during COVID he was not competent. All of his press conferences.
Yeah. No, he's a politician. He's not competent. I agree.
Okay. All right.
I know that's like a funny like thing to say, but yeah, I have very low opinions of politicians generally. That's borne out by the facts. I don't know. Like, would you all overall say that like Trump did like worse than you think Biden would have?
Yeah, in COVID.
Yeah,
I think he was a horrible.
He made
president.
it worse. You could have done nothing and just sat back and like just let whoever your cabinet member was be in charge of this.
I mean, I do think Trump was more competent on foreign policy than I would have expected. Like he's very decisive, whereas Biden is very indecisive. So on that front, they are very different people. Biden, when he's faced with making a decision, he'll sometimes take weeks and months. Like he took forever to name a campaign manager. Like even the smallest things he takes forever to do. Whereas Trump, you know, for better or worse, like, you know, he's very mercurial, but he'll be like, okay, you're fired. Okay, you're hired. Okay, like he's constantly moving chess pieces around. Whereas Biden's kind of apprehensive about making any moves.
Sure.
Wait, do you both agree, Marcus? Do you agree that Trump would get us to the moon faster?
Marcus does.
I just don't think that matters. But
sure, it doesn't need to matter. But do you think?
Yeah, I guess like what I would say is like Trump is a much more volatile person than Biden. I think Biden's like current status is like like why get to the moon? Like you're like it's not on his mind type of thing. And like I think if something's not on Biden's mind, I think his mind is not very large, and so like very little can enter it. Whereas I think Trump, you know, things rapidly come and enter, like leave and you know enter his mind. So I think he might I think Trump is a more volatile person. He might just decide, might wake up on a Thursday and be like, we should get to the moon, and I'm going to fund it with you know $100 billion. And then if you put $100 billion on this problem, then man does get to the moon. So yeah.
Okay.
I'm not saying that's good.
Biden was a senator for 50 years or whatever. So he's very focused on running government well. Like he's very focused on policy outcomes, and in his mind, probably he's pissed off because you know he's doing a pretty good job as president, all things considered. But like people aren't recognizing that. People are like, this guy's horrible. This guy's old. This guy's incompetent.
Oh, I agree. The like you know people's opinions of like how the president is doing is like very uncorrelated at best with how the president's actually doing.
Yeah. Whereas Trump is very into pointless stuff. Like he doesn't care about shutdowns. He doesn't care about running the country. He's very into like marketing stunts, and getting to the moon is like as big of a marketing stunt as possible.
Sure.
So I think that people are probably correct to feel angry, but I don't think it's Biden's fault. Like I think the economy is actually like doing that.
Hold on,
like it is.
Sorry, whoever you were, we are in a public voice chat, but we can move the stage if more people do that, but it's fine. Okay, wait. I'm glad we have some agreement on the moon. I'm gonna link that in chat if anyone wants to bet on it. I think that's fun.
Yeah, I sort of agree with Domer in terms of like their intentionalities, but I do think most of it is actually just in their volatilities. I think Biden is like relatively stagnant, like not very volatile. Like I think his priorities are unlikely to change, whereas I think Trump, just like might wake up one day and like there's like a lot of days. If he's president, there's like what is there like 1,500 days where he's president or something? No, not quite 1,400 or so. It's like 1450 days he's president, and any one of those days he could decide he really wants to get to the moon. And I think like probably like you couldn't do it in like 2 weeks, but like if you gave the money for it and you decide you really want to do it, there's just too many days. Like there's like 1,000 days or so that Trump could say, I want to get to the moon. I'm gonna get to the moon, and they'll get to the moon. So yeah. Horrible Trump.
Okay, wait. I'm gonna do one other one that I linked then, just for my own satisfaction of getting your opinions on a conditional. The other one that I made was conditional again on Trump winning or not winning. Will the United States abandon its policy of strategic ambiguity towards China/Taiwan by 2028? Do you think there's a difference?
Yes.
Which one do you think is more likely? Do you think Trump is more likely or Biden to abandon strategic ambiguity?
Trump is way more likely to abandon it. It's for the same reason. He's much more volatile.
Doma?
I don't think it makes much of a difference, personally.
Well, you can bet for or against correlation on these markets.
Yeah, sure. Link me to a market. I'll happily bet. But yeah, like I'm surprised.
It's a lounge
on this. Okay.
You think they're like? I mean, I think neither of them would do it. Is my main thing for betting against correlation.
Sure, I think it's Trump is like twice as likely though.
Twice as likely to abandon Taiwan and let China just roll in. That's what you're saying.
I think Trump is twice as likely to deviate from status quo most of the time. Like, whatever the status quo is, I think Trump is way more likely to get off of it than Biden.
That's a fair argument.
I mean, yeah, that's interesting. I think I agree with what you're saying.
For most things, don't hold me to that for everything, but it's for like some long-standing policy of the U.S. Like, who is more likely to change it? Like Trump by a mile.
Yeah, but I also think Trump has demonstrated much more specifically anti-China, rhetoric than Biden has. So it's an interesting question. I'm personally not sure of either of them having much of an impact there.
Mm-hmm. It would really depend on just like if there's a reason to change policy, like how aggressive China's being. If China is just keeping the status quo, I imagine we'd keep the status quo. If China starts being more aggressive, then there's a question of whether one of them would acknowledge Taiwan as a country properly or pull back. Okay, we can move on from these ones. These are hard questions, trying to think like 4 years ahead, and it's 50% in one timeline and 50% in another timeline. The expected value becomes difficult. Let's see, did we have anything else? Trying to look at. I don't know, just either of you have any like big events that you think are going to be good for prediction markets soon? Like after the caucuses and the rest of the Republican primary, like what's going to be the next big market, do you guys think?
The NFL probably will probably take something.
Oscars will probably be soon after that as well.
Well, you asked before about, I'm changing the subject a little bit. You asked before about, what markets have I done well in? The opposite of that. What markets have I done terrible in? And that one comes to mind recently. I've constantly been betting that both real money and I think Manifold bucks, that Turkey is going to okay Sweden getting into NATO. And I've been wrong. I've bet the same thing, I think, 6 times. And I've been wrong every single time, and they just keep delaying it, and they just keep delaying it. So that's like my kryptonite in terms of prediction markets.
I've looked at those and just like, I've just been too scared to ever try, because it seems like no one has an idea of when this will happen. You would think that for such a major like political event as admitting a country into NATO, there would be a schedule. We would know when the vote is, but apparently not. Like, I don't even know how you try to predict that.
Try to predict what? Sorry.
Sweden getting into NATO.
Um,
Are you familiar with the general? Like, Turkey has to approve it, basically.
yeah, I think I bet no on those markets and just like did well, but not like I like really predicted it really hard when it was at 90% and bet no on that.
It's got to happen
Thought
at
it was
some
like
point,
60.
right? It's
Well, sure, maybe, probably. I don't know. Like, show me a market. I don't know. I haven't looked into this too much.
Um,
I mean, it's a super. It's not to derail this, but it's a super complex problem because Turkey wants stuff from the U.S. and so they're kind of using Sweden as this pawn. They're trying to get the F-35 jets. They're trying to get upgrades to their F-16. So like it's all tied up in this, geopolitical thing, and then Ukraine plays into it a little bit. So it's a very complex problem. I mean, the rational thing to do, and this is why I keep betting yes, is Turkey lets in Sweden, and the U.S. is like, okay, now you played nice with this, now you can have all these jets. But like, Turkey constantly wants the U.S. to give them jets beforehand, and the U.S. simply is not going to do this. So we're in this like prisoner's dilemma where Sweden is just kind of left in the cold permanently, for the time being at least.
Yeah, it's at 38% by March 31st right now is the Manifold market on it. I have no idea whether to bet yes or no at that price.
Yeah, don't ask me
Okay.
because I will say yes, and that's wrong, I guess.
Okay. I guess like this would be something interesting to talk about, and I know like maybe my bets are making me want to do it, but like, yeah, I mean I formerly made money on Polymarket. Maybe I should go back to it, but like, do you think there's like any big differences between like relevant differences between real money and play money prediction markets that like are important? Domer, like given your own, I know we're both on them, so yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting and complex question. Is there anything? So I would say, the biggest difference between Manifold and Polymarket is on Manifold. People kind of go with their own interpretation of the rules sometimes, or people are very technical sometimes, or people just change the rules sometimes. So it's a very like user focused like market creation. Like the user who has created the market has a lot of control and can sometimes subtly change things, like as in where they want the market to go. And in Polymarket, we have all of these huge fights over rules, as you know, especially after things are over. And it's less like one person deciding and more like people deciding as a group, oh, this is what it means. And then you have these huge disagreements and people just are just at each other's throats and there's real money involved. So that's one huge difference between the two of them. As far as accuracy, I don't know. It's hard to tell. I haven't spent enough time on Manifold. I mean, the thing about Manifold is quite often prices are wrong on stuff just because people are not checking things and are not noticing it. If I was to spend my full-time job at Manifold, I would probably
Yeah, just like
make-
taking things at 50 to 33 because they should be there, or taking things at like 20
Exactly.
to take them to 5 because like no
Exactly.
one's betting. Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
so things would be more instantaneously correct on a real money prediction market as it compared to Manifold, which may be lagging a little bit for various reasons.
Yep. Agreed.
Actually, wait. So this is a great question because we just had someone put together a little project called Calibration City, which is they scraped every market on Manifold and Polymarket and Kalshi and Metaculus, and they found the Breyer score for all of them. They like did a time-weighted average of you take a sample of every market at each like every minute of every day basically, and you compare that to the ultimate resolution, and you can calibrate when Manifold says something is 60% likely to happen, how likely is it actually? And then the same question for Polymarket, etc. I linked it in chat, but if either of you haven't looked at it yet, do you want to take a blind guess on which platform is more accurate?
I'll take it off the
Or
screen
if
then
there's
if they're
much
gonna
difference.
guess.
Oh, I don't know if they're looking. I assume
Good.
neither of you looked yet.
Okay, what were the options? Manifold, Metaculus, and Polymarket? What were
And Kalshi. Kalshi's on there too.
Oh, Calci will be the
Calci.
best because there's a lot of smart interest rate traders on there. You did show it on the screen though, so I did know that. I guess.
Ah.
Like you showed it on the screen, and I saw Calci was the best.
Okay, wait.
Yeah,
All
my
right,
guess,
Marcus,
would
Marcus,
have
shut
been
up.
my guess would have been Kalshi because they're very technical and there's a lot of it's very automated. So my guess would be Kalshi.
Did either of you see the Manifold versus Polymarket? Because Kalshi's number one. I want to see if you can guess between Manifold, Metaculus, Polymarket. What are the other rankings?
I actually think Polymarket will do poorly because a lot of the times, like say a market is like actually at 99.999 or whatever, but, like there'll be only a bid type of thing. Like the bids are like skew that thing because it's all limit order based. I think Polymarket will have a problem there.
There are some weird
like-
measurement issues here. I should say that these
Yeah.
are not like it is not certain that this site is more accurate than this site because Calibration City says so.
No.
But
Like
ignoring
I
that.
think there's something structural here, right? Which is like
Mhm.
let's say like a market just goes live on Polymarket or something, and like it'll just like start at 50%, fine, and then a bet happens, and like the actual probability is 80% or whatever, and like someone like like I don't know like there's no like there's someone who just like will automatically like make that market say 10 at 90, and now like the only thing people can do is like just massively swing it around like for an unpopular market, for example. Like there's a lot of structural problems that Polymarket is going to have that like cause it to be off in terms of the Breyer score.
Domer, what would be your guess for number 2 after Kalshi?
Sorry. I think Metaculus will probably be slightly better because I've seen that happen before. As
It
well.
would depend.
So
I would need. I can't really give an informed answer to this. Like
Yeah.
without knowing the criteria, I think the easy answer is Kalshi. But for the previous question, and I think we both got that. But then
Yeah.
once you compare things more granularly, I would need to look at like what criteria they use and like are they cherry picking certain markets? Because I think if they were only doing like the most highly liquid markets on Polymarket, then the answer would be Polymarket. But if they're just kind of taking a broad swath, then my guess would be the answer is Metaculus because those people are obsessed.
Okay, all right. Let's skip the game then.
Okay, so, sure. Yeah, I really want to agree with that. Like on the most highly liquid important markets, I'd say Polymarket's the best. But because of like the structural problems I said, I think Polymarket will score the worst because it'll do like horrible at some markets. And then so I think it's probably going to be Kalshi and then Metaculus, Manifold, Polymarket because of this. But like if you just only the highly liquid in extremely important markets like LK99, I bet Polymarket performed the best.
Okay.
Although,
You guys are getting
just-
some interesting questions.
let me revise it real quick because
Okay.
when you change your odds on Metaculus, like the odds don't immediately go to the new number, whereas that is the case on Manifold. Like if something is 10% chance and the market's at 50, someone can take it to 10 right away. Whereas on Metaculus, you can't really take it to 10. You can just reduce your own odds. So I don't know. I'm thinking the answer may be Manifold.
Okay, so I actually want to quickly say I agree that like prediction markets are better at quickly getting to true probabilities than like a Metaculus like type of like average of probabilities of forecasters. Like that is not a good idea if you want to get accurate answer as fast as possible. But other than that, yeah, I think Manifold just has too many uninformed new traders who do crazy stuff like bid up LK99 to 50% for no reason. Yeah. Whereas like that doesn't happen on real money.
Yeah,
sure.
Lay it on us.
Okay, so firstly, this changes depending on all of the issues you guys are talking about. And the fun part is this site lets you adjust for that. You can actually sort by just looking at this much volume or this many traders, or just if the market's been open for at least this amount of time. And the rankings move around. But the default way that they do this here is that they've got a minimum market value of $10. So like at least someone's traded on here. It wasn't just empty. And they do a time-weighted average. That's the default setting. And then they don't sort by days or traders. So if you take just their defaults, Kalshi is the most accurate at Breyer 0.12. But the rest are pretty close behind, actually. Metaculus is number 2 at 0.13. Then Manifold at 0.14. Polymarket at 0.15. But that changes if you sort by volume. or number of traders, as you guys say. But overall, yeah, you're correct based on the default. Yeah, you can look at, chat was saying, you can sort by like market midpoint, for example, which is just taking, instead of averaging how accurate each one was over the entire time that it existed, you can look at just the midpoint of each market, 50% of the way through start to close, and then grade how accurate that was. If you go by that method, Metaculous is at 0.14, everyone else is 0.16.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you get pretty close.
I think it makes much more sense for what it's worth to like just like ask a question. Like, I would say the better way for prediction markets to work is like have some like time period. Like if you really want to see like who's the most accurate, is like which side is most accurate, just like close the market, like like let the market equilibrate at like a certain level and then close it. Like give it like say like a week or something like this. Like let the market equilibrate for a week and then close it and then like lock in those percentages and then like let the market resolve or whatever and then see who's right type of thing. Who's right more often. Like that's your actual prediction. Whereas like on Metaculous, you're just like basically rewarded for like updating very, very quick, often rather like on Manifold, a lot of it's pricing things in, etc. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or just to follow up on what Doma was saying earlier, yeah, if you go to the highest volume ones, like if I crank the minimum market volume up to $500, then Polymarket becomes the most accurate. Just above Manifold, notably, it's like 0.1321 to 0.1327. Cauchy actually gets worse when there's more money in the market somehow. I don't know why, but at least in this sample. That's a fun statistical fact. Trust the Cauchy markets with less money in them, I guess. But yeah, this is a cool site. If anyone wants to check out differences between the platforms, I linked it.
Polymarket's prior score barely increases when you sort by when you do it by market close, whereas Manifold goes down to 0.01. Polymarket goes to
This is the structural reason I talked about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Polymarket also gets like insanely accurate if you account for just markets that have been open a certain amount of time, because what that is that a market gets to 99% and then it waits for UMA. So it doesn't resolve as soon as it should, and then on average it stays at 99% along a large percent of the time the market exists. And so the Briar score is super low. So there's no right answer of like how to compare the platforms. They're all pretty close. But I don't know. I think it's surprising that they're so close, honestly. Like I would have honestly thought that there would be major differences, that one of these would end up like significantly more accurate no matter how you measured it, but that doesn't seem to be the case. It kind of depends on what you're looking at. But they're all about the same accuracy, oddly.
Yeah, I really think the way that you need to be doing these things is on very important things, basically, like on a Biden election, for example, or like very highly liquid, very important markets, as opposed to like Manifold just got a bunch of crap markets. Like, will there be like will there be 1150 engaged users by this date? Like, yeah, it's really 99.9% like right away. Whereas Polymarket has a lot less of those. Like this is a lot of what's boosting Manifold's probability, like very easy markets. And I do fear that like a lot of people like on Manifold are the ones that do these comparisons. And like, yeah, like I don't know, like it'd be great if like, yeah, like Manifold is the best site. Like you should just whoever the top trader on Manifold is, like you should just trust that person. I agree with that. Like the guy at the top of the Manifold leaderboard is like is really smart. And just like pay him lots of money to predict things for you. No, like, but I don't think it's that at all. Like, I guess like a much more like I think that like whoever's at the top like 20 on Polymarket in terms of profits, I think would outperform the top 20 on Manifold. And I don't know. I'm curious if like if you think that, then like you probably think that Polymarket's a better site.
Domer, do you have a thought on that? I'm thinking.
No, I'm not. I mean, each site has their strengths and weaknesses, and it's hard to differentiate because we occasionally there are some markets on Polymarket that attract people who are like brought in specifically for that event, and like they can greatly distort the odds. Like what I'm thinking of is the Taiwan election. So this third party guy who was super popular with young people, he went up to 50% at one point. Now he finished a distant third. he at no point should he have been higher than like 10% maybe. And then like in Turkey, you know, there's a bunch of people that came in from Turkey and they were betting on the opposition guy way higher than he should be. The recent ETF with Bitcoin, even though it was like extremely clear that the ETF was going to happen, you had all these Bitcoin people come in, and I'm not sure if they were hedging or betting against it, but for whatever reason, they really distorted the price. So if you have stuff that goes viral, like within like sub communities, and people show up and they're like betting on what they want to happen rather than what
Oh, like
they
LK99. Yeah.
yeah, like LK99 with the Twitter hype and all this stuff. You know, it was kind of like a marketing thing with LK99, and people were taken in by the marketing. Yeah, so if you have these communities that show up and bet on what they want to happen, as opposed to, you know, some analysis of what they think is going to happen, then it can really distort the markets.
Yeah, I feel like you end up with that in a lot of like real money prediction markets, that like people will come in and they'll bet like RFK Jr. to win the presidency, or they'll bet on Michelle Obama to be the Democratic nominee, and like, yeah, you guys take their money, but it makes the market end up looking weird in terms of the actual like displayed probability. You should trust Metaculus probably more than Polymarket, I think, because Metaculus isn't trying to get money from people who think RFK will be president.
I'm remembering back. This goes back a long time, but it was in the 2008 election. It was Obama versus McCain, and the website was called InTrade, which doesn't really exist anymore. And I would stay up like every night, like until very late hours, because there's this one trader that would come in the middle of the night every night and put in these huge bets on McCain to win. And we called him like the McCain whale or something like that. And I think they did an analysis afterwards, and it turned out it was like some marketing company that they had hired to like increase McCain's odds. I mean, I'm not sure if McCain's campaign had anything to do with it, but I think someone was like, you know, trying to give the impression that McCain had a better chance than he did. And if you think about it, you know, it kind of makes sense a little bit, because if you can convince people that other people are doing something, then it's like, oh, okay, well then maybe other people are voting for McCain. You know, maybe I should. So it was like a marketing thing where they were trying to like boost him, and they were spending real money to do it. So I think that's kind of interesting, you know, artifact of what can happen in real money markets. Yeah,
I wonder if that would actually have been more effective than spending it on a couple of TV ads.
maybe. I mean, yeah, because I mean, if you think the coverage of prediction markets as it increases, you know, the amount of money to move a market sometimes is not that much.
Oh yeah, especially towards very extreme probabilities, it's very difficult to correct those, right?
Yeah, because you got the time value of money and all this stuff.
Like if you have like a lot of incentive to keep a market like if you have an otherwise economic incentive to keep the market above 10%, well, like our relative, like I need to spend 1/10 as much as you, right?
Yeah.
Is that what
so
it?
that I mean,
1/9.
yeah,
1/9.
exactly.
Sorry. Yeah.
So this happened on Predict It in 2020. People were betting on Trump to win like 400 electoral. I don't remember what it was, but it was something where he won New York, California, like he won the whole map almost. And I think this constantly traded at 10 cents. And but you know, in a market where you can bet unlimited amounts of money and you're not worried about, you know, opportunity costs and stuff, this would be trading at half a cent. You know, people would be like, this is impossible. It's not going to happen. But it traded at 10 cents because these people were coming in, you know, it was on Twitter like, oh, Trump's going to win every state. Oh, my God, a red map, etc. And they would come in, they would bet $850. Well, in order to counteract that $850, to your point, it required $8,500. Right?
Yeah.
So it was constantly being held up, boosted by these smaller dollar traders who can completely overwhelm like the large volume of other traders.
That's fun. I'm trying to think, looking at the market. Okay, yeah. So wait, we were talking about like the top traders on Polymarket, which I think is an interesting question, because the top traders on Polymarket, as far as I know, are Doomer and a bunch of anonymous strings of numbers. Like I'm not. I don't know if that's just because I don't use the site as much, but like it feels like the culture there is more towards anonymity, right?
Yeah, so I do end up knowing almost all the big traders at this point.
Mhm.
There are a couple of like
Starbucks.
rogue traders that come in and out. Like there's this guy called that I call like the Trump whale, who will come in constantly and just bet huge sums that Trump is going to be re-inaugurated as the president. Like as in like right now, as in like his inauguration is like going to be in the next few days.
Yeah. Any day now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's gonna get in. Yeah. No evidence can update me. It's like
And like here's another thing that happened. Okay, there was a market on whether Tesla would buy any Bitcoin or Ethereum, right? And I think the end date was like 7 days away. This was like 2 or 3 years ago. And somebody came in, they funded their account, they made one trade, they bought yes. 2 hours later, it came out that they had bought Bitcoin or Ethereum, and they took all their money and they left, and they've never made a bet again. So it's like, there's just someone that knew the answer, came in, took everyone's money, and then left.
And now they're just on the leaderboard forever as like the most profitable person.
Yeah, exactly. 1 for 1.
Mm-hmm.
1 for 1. Not bad. It was 100% record. Yeah. All right.
Like, are there people that like you guys look to, but both of you? Because to the average person, if someone's like, okay, I want to try and see what a good forecaster is going to do, they go and they check what Domer traded on, or they check what Marcus traded on recently. Is there some equivalent, a higher plane of existence where you guys are, I don't know, you're just looking at actual financial experts, or?
But me answering the question, so I am not the smartest trader at 99% of the stuff I trade. Like I am perhaps like one of the best all around traders, and I can like, I know a decent amount about a lot of things. But the Taiwan elections, I'm not an expert on Taiwan. So I was messaging somebody on Manifold, and I was asking him like what he thought, like et cetera, et cetera. So I will often try and find traders within certain specialities. Like I think Chris, who's here, maybe, I'm not sure if he's still here. He's great on SpaceX. So I like follow what he does on SpaceX. So I mean, there's various topics that I'll follow somebody in particular and see what they do.
So you're looking for like a little known person who's decent
Yeah,
all around?
this was one of the market suggestions. It's just like, who are the good traders that no one's ever heard of, or fewer people have heard of?
I don't know. This came to mind. Just like names are hard. He's not really active on Manifold anymore. I don't know if he is in real life, but I think while he was around, he was very good. And probably underrated. I guess like probably actually for I don't have a good answer to this.
I think Domer's right. That so much of it is just knowing who's good at one specific thing.
Oh, I disagree about that. I do think that like a lot of it is actually a generalizable skill. And it's about synthesizing information from people, sure. But synthesizing information from people is important, and doing that well. But I do think it's a generalizable skill. Like I don't think that scientists, for example, would have better predicted LK99. Well, maybe they would have than the general public, but like I think forecast. I think like I bet a bunch of scientists got up in the hype, and some of them did. Let's say until they saw like some of them would. And I do think it's a generalizable skill. And you need to get if you want a super forecaster or like a forecaster rather to do really well, you need to get them. You need to get knowledge into them from people that are important. But I do think that this skill of say forecasting and having accurate predictions is a generalizable skill. And pundits suck at it. Like I think no, I'm kidding. But
no, you're right.
Yeah, like so like
I
guess
one
like
of the other questions here.
I'd be much more bullish on say good forecaster plus has access to relevant experts, I guess. Than I would be on just like I really think that like experts are individual experts are good at trading on certain market. I don't buy that.
Right. Well, no, okay, wait. So another question from the general market here is who are the best political analysts / pundits? Like, are there any? Like if you think, do you think if you took Nate Silver or Ezra Klein and you put them on Polymarket or Kalshi or Manifold, would they do well? Because that's who people listen to.
I'm trying to think of any pundits that I pay attention to. I mean, the smartest political guy I think is Nate Cohn, who works for the New York Times.
Agree that Nate Cohn is very good. Yeah.
And I call him the good Nate as opposed to the bad Nate. Nate Silver, aka Nate Tin. Yeah. So and then as far as people who analyze elections, I mean, the kids on electoral Twitter are super smart. There are so many kids. Like some of them are like, probably like 17 years old, and they're creating maps, in their spare time, and going to high school during the day. And it's like they have a lot of sharp analysis sometimes. And the smartest guy that I know on elections is this guy named Sharko Rubio, and he does trade a little bit, but he's young, so he doesn't have a big bankroll or anything. But yeah, he's the smartest guy I know.
Yeah, ET Twitter has some like real fucking geniuses in there that like somehow like this random kid somehow like had a perfect score of like every House seat in the midterms. It is phenomenal. Like the things that
and they're doing it for fun, and they don't necessarily have the biases that I have at this point. Now if I'm betting on a race, I'm gonna have a bias automatically just by whatever side I'm betting on, whereas these kids sometimes are just trying to figure out the right answer.
Did you say his name was Sharko Rubio? Sharko.
I was looking him up now.
Yeah, no. And Rubio spelled the same way the former presidential hopeful was.
Yeah, Sharko Rubio. He's by far the smartest.
Yeah, he's got like 400 followers on Twitter.
He has another account that I think has a lot of followers. I'm not remembering it offhand. But yeah.
Yeah, I think Nate Cohn, best Nate. Nate Rakic, also good in my opinion. That's the other Nate at 538. Since Silver left, I feel like he usually has good takes. Trying to think. I mean, does Wasserman do much directly, or does he just post when he's seen enough? Does he actually is he part of the
Wasserman used to be like God. Like he was the best, but lately he's been getting into like punditry, and he's not as sharp as he used to be.
The best.
I guess like I would echo that, like often like say like Twitter accounts with say 500 to like 10,000 followers can often be like the best follows. Not on necessarily prediction markets or anything like this or analysis, but just like good people to listen to. That actually seems like, I don't know. I mean, I guess like this is like sort of like more likely just like because the amount of people in that spectrum are there's like a lot of those people. So like if you find the good ones within those, like you're gonna be doing better. I don't know.
No, yeah, I mean that's much of success in prediction markets. I think is having a well curated Twitter feed. Honestly.
Yeah, sure.
At least like when there's big events going down, like when Altman was like ousted, and then the question of when he would come back, if he would come back, was like I was on Twitter so fucking much that week. Same thing with like Speaker of the House, all the Hill reporters constantly giving us updates on each new proposed candidate, and then them getting shot down one after another.
Yeah, I would agree. A curated list of who to follow and how to get information is the best. And then also, I would say a skill that can definitely be learned is how to respond to news. Like often there'll be news and it's like, oh, is this market over? Is there still a little wiggle room, or what does this mean? Because a lot of people can see news like, oh, XYZ just happened, and they'll go to the market and they'll be like, okay, it's 100%. Let me take it to 99. Whereas someone else can be like, oh, I'm not sure about this. This might only be worth 90. And that's a huge gap between 99 and 90. So there can be these little advantages of teaching yourself how to react to information and be skeptical of information. Sometimes stuff that is reported could be wrong, and it's figuring that out. Like, for instance, this just happened last night. There was a report that these Hezbollah fighters came into Israel, right? And there's a market on Polymarket. Oh, will Hezbollah come into Israel? Well, it turns out that the account that reported it, it's just calling anyone from Lebanon Hezbollah, right? They're just some random people. It's not necessarily a sanctioned event. So the market went up hugely, and then I saw it and I was like, okay, this is not, Hezbollah has not officially invaded Israel. This would be like, a world event. And And so I took it back down to like, 5% chance. So it's just that type of thing where, be skeptical of news that you read that's not from exact sources. Things along those lines.
Yeah, the headline so often people will trade on a headline and not read the article, and the article does not back up their trading.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
Yeah, I think I would also say I'm not good at that. Like, I often, well, as in like, yeah, I think there's like a lot of, I'm sure you could like probably look at like $5,000 losses of mine where it's just like, yeah, I did not, like I mean, often I just don't read the markets, which is not smart, but can't
Yeah, you gotta be.
change that.
My philosophy is always that nothing is over 99%, basically, unless the person running the market has posted a comment saying this will resolve yes. Otherwise, nothing goes over 99. Is my rule of thumb.
Yeah, I do think a lot of it's this will be self-serving, but a lot of it's not my fault necessarily. It's like the market creator who just like wants the market to resolve a certain way and just like makes it.
Yes.
But yes, like that I should be factoring that in. That like they might want the market to resolve a certain way, or like they'll let it. They'll be loose in their interpretations of certain things, and like that is a fault of mine.
Ooh, okay, I thought of something else. So, another thing that is important to know is like when to bond, like when something is actually 100 or 99, and when something is not, because I've seen so many traders thinking something is guaranteed, and it could be extremely, extremely likely, and they bond it. They basically put all their money in, and it's like, okay, this is happening, and it's not necessarily the case. But conversely, finding stuff that can be bonded and willing to take that risk, that can also be extremely profitable. So being able to discern, being able to bond things proactively, and being able to avoid bad bonds, those are like extremely, extremely good skills, and also like self-preservation a little bit.
Can you think of a recent example of like a reversal where some people were treating it as a bond and it wasn't?
Yeah. So it's actually happened twice with the exact same thing. It has both been Biden signing a bill. So I think there was a market on whether the Infrastructure Act would pass by, like, let's say, I don't remember the date. Let's say it was September 15th, right? And Congress passed it on like September 5th, or it's some ridiculous date. And so it's like, okay, this is over. But Biden took forever to sign it, and somebody bonded it to like 99.9%, and they lost all their money. And then the same thing happened. I'm forgetting the exact bill, but it was in June or July, and Biden took like 2 weeks to sign it. And it's like, these things can happen. Like, it not only can they happen, it literally just happened like earlier in his presidency. So, yeah, those are two where people got run over by Biden just delaying something that was inevitable.
That's always my fear with like the shutdown markets, is that the negotiations and like the game of chicken goes to the last fucking day, and then even if Congress signs it and the Senate or Congress and Senate pass it, it's a question of like, is Biden still awake? Will he actually sign this before midnight? Or will there technically be a shutdown for 2 hours or something?
Exactly, and that's happened before. There's been a couple of technical shutdowns that have lasted like 12 hours, and nothing happens. Nothing happens in real life because they don't send out the instructions. They know Biden's gonna, or the president's gonna sign it. So it's like nothing actually happens, but the market goes from 100 to 0. That's what happens.
Yeah, those are fun. This round, just to say on shutdowns, it looks like they're passing the CR, right? Like, I don't think they would have announced it as they did with all the leaders if there was any chance of like the right flank holding it up.
Well, it seems like he's going to pass it in spite of the right flank. I think the right flank is extremely pissed at him. You're starting to hear the chatters of like, abandoning the speaker and like vacating the chair. It's like, I'm not sure that's going to happen, but I think he's going to pass it in spite of the hard right.
Right. Yeah. It's just a question of whether they are mad enough then to vacate the chair, which, yeah, I think he's right to call their bluff there. They don't want to do what they just did. That was not fun for anyone those 3 weeks. It was fun for me, actually, but it wasn't fun for them. We're probably coming up on time in terms of how long these usually go, but fun talking with you guys. Wait, do we have anything else in the market? Either of you see that you want to bring up, or I don't know.
Not
Any last
particularly.
minute bet?
Nothing offhand from here, unless anyone has any specific questions.
Trying to think. NC, anything stand out to you?
Nothing in particular. Let me have a look. They're shifting around a bit now that we're talking about whether we're going to do them all.
Right.
Some of them are still
We love
above
insider.
50%, about half of them.
I think we've engaged your audience enough that they're not just buying the market about what we'll say next. I think that's a good sign, actually. If the market is less efficient, that means they're enjoying the show. I don't think we did any huge bets, but
I don't think we did
I love
any,
the old war
um,
stories from Polymarket. Like, I'm sure 2024 is going to have just as much crazy shit once we get into it. Like, right now, only like 10% of people are paying attention that are going to, right?
Yeah, I mean the markets are going to be huge this year in terms of politics.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's
All right.
Manifold's first presidential election, so see how well that works.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, here's a good market idea, and I'm not sure if it exists, and it probably does.
Okay.
Will Manifold crash on election day?
I thought about making that. I thought, and more generally, like, what will go wrong? There's also
That
going to be a
seems
lot
possible.
of
So many
loans
people.
coming in. You know, people will go, I'm bankrupt. From possibly a lot of people will leave the site.
But
Probably a few big misresolutions. Maybe, I don't know.
oh god, can you imagine 2020 on Manifold with like the subjective markets from people? Like you have to. Does this guy understand that the election actually is over now, or are they going to wait until the certification? Those are always fun questions. But
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I'm imagining a question called "Was there voter fraud?" You'd have to figure out like
Yes.
the person's affiliation.
There's always one or two people voting fraudulently. But that's
Yeah, I mean,
Or no, the market would be how
widespread.
much. It would be like what Price is Right rules. How many cases of verified voter fraud will be found by
Yeah.
this date?
But was there a lot of voter fraud in the election? Well, it depends who won. Who won?
And who you support, of course.
Yes. All right. Cool.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, no, thanks for joining us. Definitely down to have either of you on anytime in the future. We'll probably do more like casual just betting calls, by the way. Like not even that's part of the show, but people have asked me after the last one we did with Marcus to like organize stuff where people can just get on and say, hey, I want to make a large bet on this market. Because it's hard to get volume sometimes on Manifold. Like you could put up a limit order for 10,000 and no one notices it. So if either of you ever have like a big bet you want to make or something, let us know. We can try and advertise for you. Find you a counterparty.
all right. Yeah, I think I'm generally happy to bet pundits. I think they're often very overconfident.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, actually, like I think a very fun thing to do would be to get like me and Domer on and just like have pundits like just like say the things that they're very confident in and get a
This is the thing that no one would ever agree to do. Is the problem.
No, please, I will do it. And you just need the pundit, right? Who's like already very confident in that they're right, and just like I'll bet against them 100 times type of thing. And me and Domer and like $1,000 each, and we'll we got to rinse these guys' pockets.
Yeah, if we can somehow get Kevin Roos or Dylan Matthews on here, we'll see.
No, I don't think Dylan Matthews. I don't think either of them are particularly bad. I think it has a lot to do with just like the fact that punditry leads to this type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's because like I think Dylan Matthews like probably decent actually.
No, yeah, he's
Kevin
good.
Roos. Yeah,
I'm just
Kevin Roos
people
like,
on Manifold.
I haven't looked at Kevin Roos. I'm sure he's like probably one of the better ones. I do just think that like being a pundit, just like makes you like not as good at predicting the same way as like being a politician makes you a worse person. I don't know, like I'm kidding about that one, but like I do think there's like character. Yeah, you have incentives the other way when you're a pundit. Your incentive is to say something very strongly that a base will agree with, type of thing. and to double down on it constantly. And I don't think you can change and basically being a successful pundit will mean you've probably like sunk into that hole a bit. And I think it's very hard to go against your incentives. It's like very difficult.
Well, we'll try and keep track of them better. As I think there's movement in that direction of trying to get people to like give their yearly predictions and like put a number on how likely they think a thing will be. I hope that trend continues.
Yeah, I think like a rapid fire thing where you ask a bunch of markets and we assign percentages. That would be fun for a future one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
Rapid fire.
If you guys are down, that is absolutely something we can put together. There's already like a beta version of that game. It's what was it? Calibrate something, where it like it generates a manifold market for you, and it asks like what percentage do you think this market is at.
Interesting.
And then, but the game would be you ask like people on the show, like you two, to both just rapid fire tell me how likely do you think this is, and you both give me a number. Oddball, that's the name of it. Yeah.
We did try that, didn't we? For the
briefly. Yeah. The problem is like the version is kind of broken. It has a lot of markets that already resolved. So they're like about things that have happened. Because it was made last year, I think. But we could probably like hand
twice in a row, I think, or something. Twice anyway.
Mm-hmm. I think one thing I find about Manifold or poly market users is they tend to be competitive. So I like a bit of competition. Probably throw something together. Looking at the markets, yeah, I think we've exhausted the show suggestion topics. These will probably all resolve no, as far as I can see. Y'all feel free to trade on that. And yeah, I guess do you wanna cut the stream and see?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks
Thanks for coming on. Yeah.
Yep. Likewise.
Take care. Later.